Good morning, everybody. We're going to do something a little bit different today. There is a split slate today. So my article is going to be coming out here in a little bit with a video attached to it concerning tonight's games. There's 10 games on tonight's slate, but the early games are going to be kicking off here in about an hour or so. So I wanted to do a quick video of a rundown on how to attack a split slate and how to kind of differentiate yourself from the field and be able to separate yourself and give you that edge in GPPs that you're looking for. Remember, our theme is always capitalizing off of chaos. So as far as GPPs are concerned, I think you're going to be a little bit shocked about how I kind of attack those. But for split slates, especially with the early slate, ownership levels are going to actually jump and increase a little bit. So where we can normally get a guy at under 10% owned, that's usually our target range. And if we're lucky, under 5% owned, we have to kind of increase that a little bit. And if we can get somebody under 15% owned, and if we're lucky under 10, then we've accomplished something as long as they're in a good spot and a good matchup. So kind of how I attack things a little bit are I generally tend to stray away from a lot of tournaments, and I attack head-to-heads, GP or double ups, cash games, the 15, 20-man leagues, because you're going to find a lot of people aren't as risk-taking. There aren't as many different lineups and stuff like that. So you can actually gain an edge on the field just by only picking one or two players different that you like than what the crowd is going with, and hopefully beating them that way. Head-to-heads are great. That's the way I really do attack these split slates. Your larger double ups are really, really good as well. But as far as GPPs, basically what I'll do is I'll throw two to three teams in GPPs. This morning, I'm going to actually be throwing three teams into the slam. One is obviously always going to be my cash game lineup, just because of the fact that if that one does go off, then you want to make sure you capitalize off of that. Last night, my cash game lineup actually hit 60, and it ended up cashing very, very well in GPPs as well. So I will do that, and then I will make a kind of mid-tier lineup to where I've got some chalk players, but then I also got some players that might not be in the best situation, but are still in a good situation to where if they come through, then it's going to accomplish two things. One, it's going to knock out a bunch of the chalk players, and then two, it's going to actually catapult me up that leaderboard to where it makes it profitable. So, and then the third one is I'm going to go completely against the grain, and I'm going to truly hold to that capitalizing off of chaos and turning chaos into cash. And I think you'll be surprised on exactly what I plan on doing for that lineup as far as GPPs in the slam go today. So won't give you my total lineup, but I will give you a lot of the players I am targeting this morning as far as cash games and GPPs, and I'll kind of fly through these games a little bit. So the first one I want to talk about today is going to be the... Let's see here. Just refreshing my spreadsheet because another lineup just came out. So hang with me, guys. The first game I'm going to talk about this morning is going to be the Tigers and the Indians. The great thing about that is that we do have Buck Farmer going again today. And if you guys don't remember Buck Farmer, he's actually the guy that pitched against the Seattle Mariners a couple weeks ago and didn't do so well. He kind of got hit around a little bit and was making it to where the Mariners were looking like a very good offense that day. So Um, he's relatively cheap across the industry, but he's going up against a Cleveland Indians lineup that is projected to score over 4.5 runs, which makes it prime pickings for cash games. And pick your spots with GPPs. I don't mind Carlos Santana. David Murphy always hits righties good. Jason Kipnis is always in play, and it goes back to yesterday's article about paying up at a position that guys usually normally punt at. I think Kipnis will actually be a little bit higher owned today just because of the quality of second baseman is not great today as far as the early slate is concerned. You got a couple bigger names in there, but for the most part, you're looking at three guys as far as the top of that list is concerned. The guy I'm actually looking forward to, if you're going to go off the wall and kind of stack a little bit, is I'm going to go to the 8, 9, and then flip it around to the 1 guy in that Cleveland Indians lineup. Michael Bourne, Giovanni Urshela at third base, and Jason Kipnis. It's not something that people think a lot of when stacking is the wraparound in the American League. It's something that's awesome. I do it with the Cubs a lot because of Addison Russell and Joe Madden actually hitting the pitcher 8th. So I wrap around with them a lot as far as my Cubs stacks are concerned. I don't mind a lot of the Tigers, though, here against Carlos Carrasco. I think he's going to higher own pitchers today, especially in cash games. He's not a bad choice as far as if you want to go that route and target, but there's no Miggy in the lineup today, which makes that Tigers offense a lot less fearful. But you still have Vimar, Cespedes, JD Martinez, Kinsler, and Rajay Davis right there as the top 5. So that's something that's it's definitely worth attacking as far as cash games are concerned. The second one I want to go to is obviously the next game of the day is the Blue Jays at the Rays. The Blue Jays are not the same team on the road. We all know that they're one of the top two or three offenses when they're in the Rogers Center, but they're not the same team on the road, which is why I actually like them today going against Nate Carnes. I'm going to have Josh Donaldson in some lineups. I'm going to have Batista, Encarnacion. Those top 4, 5, 6 guys are always somebody that I like to target in GPPs and cash games as well. So Encarnacion is actually a really, really good play. He's actually a reverse splits guy. He hits righties a little bit better than he hits lefties, especially for power. And another wraparound team that I really do go with. Kevin Pillar, Ryan Goings, Reyes, Donaldson, Batista, Encarnacion. If you're going on DraftKings, go 8, 9, 1 through 4. You can stack your 6 that way. So that's something that is really good. As far as the Rays are concerned, going against Marco Estrada, who really is a better pitcher at the Rogers Center. He gets a positive park shift as far as pitchers are concerned. But Kevin Kiermaier, Joey Butler are always in play. David DeJesus is actually hitting the ball very well. Logan Forsythe is going to be of that next level tier second baseman after Kipnis and Altuve and Dozier. So that's something that's really, really kind of in the middle. Logan Forsythe is my cash game second baseman. So I think he's in a really good spot, and that Rays offense really does thrive there in the Trop. So the next game is going to be the Phillies and the Yankees, and this is the first time in the series that a Yankees pitcher is not at least a minus 200 favorite. And I think Vegas has kind of learned a little bit that the Phillies, they have a little bit of offensive firepower. It's not a lot, but it is a little bit. Couple people I'm actually targeting in this game is as far as on the Phillies side is concerned, is going to be Ben Revere. He's seen a relatively steep price increase over the last It's looked like it's gone up about $500-600, which for his talent level is a lot. So Maikel Franco, who is absolutely on fire right now, he's two games with double-digit fantasy points on FanDuel, which is something that's very, very difficult to achieve. And he's second in the lineup as far as, or on the Phillies as far as RBIs is concerned, and is hitting righties, lefties, and he's just mashing right now. So Ryan Howard, who is somebody that I think can utilize that short porch in right field as far as Yankee Stadium is concerned. And then if you take a look to the bottom, as far as catcher, remember, the Phillies are playing in American League Park, so they've got a DH today, just like they have all series. You're looking at Carlos Ruiz, who I think is in a really, really good spot against Ivan Nova. So as far as the Yankees lineup is concerned, Brett Gardner, who's always in play, he's homered the last two games against the Phillies. It is Cole Hamels. He is an underdog, but I don't like Ivan Nova. And Alex Rodriguez, Brian McCann, Carlos Beltran, Garrett Jones, they can all capitalize off of Cole Hamels. He is coming off of an injury, which makes him a sneaky GPP play. I think he's going to be one of the lower owned pitchers of the slate this morning, but he is going to be somebody that I will have in a couple GPP lineups, or one of my GPP lineups. He's actually going to be my second pitcher. Chris Sale. Next game is we're going to the White Sox versus the Twins. Chris Sale, who's been on an absolute tear over the last 5 starts or so. He's a minus 144 favorite as far as Vegas. He is Chris Sale. He's striking out batters at an enormous clip, and that's a nice little floor that you have. When you look at strikeouts, it's not something that you look to as far as a ceiling all the time, although that does come into play. You also look at it as a floor. If he's averaging 6, 7, 8 strikeouts a game over his last 5 to 10 games or so, then you can basically bank on those points. Now, the Twins don't strike out a ton, but they don't hit lefties that well either. They're rolling out a righty-heavy lineup, but they could easily get shut down by Chris Sale today, and we all know that that's not something that normally happens. As far as my my dark horse sleeper, I'm going to go Jose at first base. I think he can actually get Phil Hughes at least for 1 home run today. That Minnesota lineup that Minnesota ballpark, Target Field. Everybody thinks of it as a pitcher's park, but it is actually very, very good for power for right-handed hitters. So I think he can turn on one and actually pull one down that line. I'm not too worried about Adam LaRoche or anybody else. The only person I'm going to be targeting, the only person that's worth targeting, in my opinion, right now on the Chicago White Sox lineup is going to be Jose Abreu. So, but I definitely will have Chris Sale. He's my cash game pitcher, and I'll build around him, even though he's going to be 85% owned probably in cash games today. So the last game is going to be the Astros at the Angels. Matt Shoemaker is a minus 121 favorite. This game is only going to be on the slate if you're playing on DraftKings. And he's probably going to be one of the pitchers I'm going to be targeting. Obviously, we all know that the Astros are always in play. They put up a ton of runs again last night. Carlos Correa hit a home run. Jose Altuve is that second top tier second baseman that I'll be actually having in a couple lineups as well. So Carlos Correa, Evan Gattis, Colby Rasmus, Chris Carter, that whole lineup, top to bottom, even Hank Conger, he's actually my cash game catcher tonight or this afternoon. He is in play. You want to make sure if you're playing on DraftKings that you have exposure to this game. It is at a 7.5 run over under, but we all know that As far as GPPs are concerned, the Astros can put up a ton of runs in a hurry. So now going to the building a GPP lineup to be able to capitalize off this chaos this morning. Remember, we want to predict the unpredictable. So what I generally tend to do is I look at who might be the highest owned and I kind of steer away from the pack. We all know that Chris Sale is going to be really, really high owned. So I'm going to have Brian Dozier in a lineup. I'm going to have Torrey Hunter in a lineup. I might throw Trevor Plouffe in another lineup. I don't want to have too much exposure in one lineup to these guys, just because of the fact that if they do get shut out, I don't want that whole lineup to be dead from top to bottom. But I think the Twins are going to go lower owned than any other team on the morning slate, and I want to make sure I do have exposure to them in both my mid-tier GPP lineup and my shoot for the stars GPP lineup. So I'm going to have some Tigers. I'm going to have some Phillies. What I'm going to end up doing for one of my shoot for the stars lineup is I'm going to go Phillies, which are going to be a little bit higher owned, with Cole Hamels as my pitcher because he's coming off the DL, so he's going to be lower owned because of that fact right there. And I'm going to go Twins, and I'm probably going to factor in some Tigers and some Blue Jays and some Rays in there. So I always go for the teams that nobody's talking about. Everybody's on Carlos Carrasco this morning about how he can strike out a ton of batters, which he can, but he also has a tendency to blow up every once in a while. I'm going to target Chris Sale just because of the fact that he has been on this unbelievable roll. Not saying that it's going to happen today, but you've seen over the course of time that when nobody's talking about this game going off, this game could be the game in the afternoon that ends up putting up 7, 8, 9, 10 runs in a hurry if Chris Sale absolutely just does not come out on his A game. So like I said, I won't have a ton of exposure in one lineup, just one lineup. I'll probably sprinkle it through those two GPP lineups. I'm going to have a couple Yankees in one of them, but Indians, and Blue Jays are probably going to be around my cash games. So usually what I do is I try to stay away from stacks and cash games, especially on early slates, just because I don't want it to be boom or bust. And if a team gets shut down, then I don't want my whole cash game lineup to be reliant on that one team or that one game. So I'll pick my spots. I'll generally go with the best value, the best player, and the best matchup as far as my GPPs are concerned, my cash games are concerned. That way, if something does happen, then I'm not totally shot just off of one game. So, guys, good luck this morning. I will have an article out in just a little bit, and I will have a video to go with it talking about tonight's slate. I will do a lineup review and recap tomorrow, depending on the outcomes of everything. And hope you guys enjoy, and good luck this morning. Talk to you in a bit.